Welcome into the Illini Inquirer podcast. Jeremy Werner, and we will catch up with Brad Evans from the Gaming Juice to talk about his bracket big board, Illinois basketball, their seeding possibilities in the NCAA tournament, break down some of the bracket stuff as well. But Joey Wagner going to start off with me here. We're going to go through 5 or 6 pack of questions like we do during the football season, Joey. Kind of hodgepodge of things, but you were just over in Indianapolis for the scouting combine to see Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph. Keith is going through workouts as we are recording this right now. Just set the scene. What's it like as a media member at that podium days at Scouting Combine?
Well, first off, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to yell just to prepare the listener for Brad Evans, or if I want to keep it calm and really just
give them test my levels here. I have to make sure the levels are a little low when he comes on.
I'm just messing around with Brad. Brad's really good, but he does bring an energy that I'm not sure I'm going to be matching on a Thursday afternoon. But the combine's cool. There's obviously Thursday is the first day of drill, so we go over there and it's just podium sessions, and it's basically 6 or 7 at a time and in different timelines. And look, they do medical right before that, so you can sit around waiting for a while for some of these guys. Not necessarily because something's come up, because it gets backed up in there, and it can be kind of a long day. You're just waiting to talk to people. It's an easy day, but the schedule's a little bit, fluctuates a little bit. And some of it's a hodgepodge, right? Like Johnny Newton was asked about his name, why he goes by Johnny and not Jerzon. He was asked about growing up in, Tampa St. Pete. And then it's just, and I get it, right? Like every reporter there has a job to do. So it's, have you met with insert team?
How many did you get with those guys? How many of those?
Keith was mostly just Illinois media because he was kind of stuck in a delay that I don't think it was related to him, but he was just stuck kind of behind there. So he got up there a little late. So it's mostly just people who have regularly covered Keith. Johnny was a lot. I would put Johnny near like 6 or so. And finally, some guy, I didn't catch his name, and I told him thanks. He goes, "Who have you met with? Let's just go there." And honestly, with that, like, I just assume someone like Johnny Newton is going to meet with 32 teams.
Correct.
And if not, just say, hey, I met with 28 or whatever. And then you have the formal versus informal. So if it's yes, then the follow-up, was it formal? I don't know what that means. I don't know. I'm just trying to learn more about his foot. Yeah, like I'm just trying to learn more about his foot and how this all came about. But look, it's a really cool thing. There's a lot of people there and it's a lot of attention. The combine's a big deal. It's a job interview. It's a huge job. I mean, let's say it's the biggest, but it's up there, right? I mean, because most of these guys Illinois at least, aren't going to participate at next week's pro day. This is their chance to put their numbers out there. Unless they're not very good, and they'll probably participate. But it's a cool thing, man. It's a really cool thing. Like, told them yesterday, Keith Randolph, right? You're standing there talking to this guy at a podium at the NFL Combine. 2019, I talked to him at Carver Arena as a recruit, it's so cool to see these guys go from 17, 18-year-old kids. Jeremy, I know, someone like Isaiah Williams, you've covered since he was 16. Or, now you see them in this setting. So it's really cool to watch that all come together. Yeah. And I will say they're at number 4 now. Keith Randolph is 20. So we're just going to cut in when 20 happens. Right. We're going to report what he runs to. So we'll be chatting by then, I'm sure.
Like, I know we didn't get to know Devin as well, just because he wasn't as outspoken with us, even though he's really outspoken with everybody else. But to see him get drafted, I'm sure in person, was really cool. For me, being around the Browns and that draft day, we're hoping to do something similar with some of these guys this year. Like Tip Ryman's a hell of a story. We'll get into him. Isaiah, I've covered for so long. But all of these guys, man, like to see their dreams come true. Casey Washington, like, might have a chance to get drafted. I never thought that was going to be the case for Casey Washington. Joey Wagner did first training camp. That was your guy.
And then I didn't for like 2 or 3 years or 4 years. And really, Jeremy, we didn't until maybe like the last week of November this year, right?
Yes, where he's running away from Northwestern guys. Like, where did this come from? So no, it's so much fun because we try to get to know these guys as people so that fans can know them as people, and you get to know the people around them. And this is just the coolest thing in the world. Like, this is what they've dreamed of. This is their biggest opportunity. It's their biggest job interviews. And in 2 months, these guys are going to have NFL contracts. So it's awesome to see. So let's go ahead.
I asked Keith yesterday, so what was kind of your whoa moment? Like, he gave such a good quote. I encourage people to read his words and what he told us at IlliniInquirer.com. But so what was your moment that you're like, oh, like this is because he talked about being there with Isaiah, his roommate, one of his best friends, and Johnny. We all know their connection. He's like, dude, I'm going to be in Madden. He said, I walked in, they did like a 360 of me. He said, I'm trying to and he kind of buffed up a little bit. He's like, I'm trying to look good because I'm going to be in a video game. And you think, well, you would have been in a video game if you came back another year. But it's like, I grew up playing Madden. I don't know if you did, Jeremy.
You know what? He's not going to care if he's not going to care if he's like a 58 overall or a 63.
Oh, no. We've met Keith. I would have to imagine he's going to care if he's a 58 overall. But it's just so cool. Like, that's such a game of so many people, like my youth. And obviously, it's like these kids play that. It's cool to hear him say, like, dude, I'm going to be in Madden. Like, yeah, that's really cool.
Man, I'd kill to be a 58 overall, and I feel pretty good about it if I'm in the game. That's all I care about. All right, let's start this 6-pack of questions, Joey. Number 1, who has the most to gain among the record 6 Illini at the NFL Combine?
I'm kind of caught. I'm going to say Tip Ryman. I am, because I think he's going to test well. I think there's kind of a feeling among people I talked to over there that he's going to test well. He's a big guy, 6'4", 6'5", 270. I'm curious what he'll measure in out on Friday. But I think he's a guy who maybe we slept on, and when he declared, we thought, really? You're going to do that? And it may have been a little closer to him coming back. I think that I know Illinois put up a pretty good fight with him to try to get him to come back. But he was set on this. I know, Jeremy, you talked to us about it. You wrote about it. I just think he's a guy who we didn't think maybe was going to be drafted, and he's starting to get a little bit more buzz here as this process goes on. So I think he could be a guy who solidifies himself as a no doubt draft pick this week.
Yeah, there's certain guys, like, I don't know if Johnny Newton, even if he went through these drills, like, the tape doesn't lie. I know Isaiah Williams, like, what his speed is going to be really interesting because he could get caught from behind at times, but his quickness, his ability to get open, like, that's all on tape. I think he's going to get drafted. Isaiah Adams, I know he had to move to right tackle, but that tape from 2022 doesn't.
Scouts don't care. Scouts don't care.
Yeah, and he moved to tackle, showing some versatility, sacrifice for the team. I think he's going to be a mid-round pick. So those guys, I don't know if they have a ton to gain, even though those guys will interview really well. So I think they'll all do well. I think it's the guys whose production wasn't great. And I include Keith Randolph in that. I think there's a big scouting combine for Keith Randolph to show one, he's healthy. I feel bad for him that he came back to improve his draft stock, and he probably really didn't because of an injury. He was still productive tackles wise. He was still an integral part to being a stout defensive lineman last year. He just wasn't as explosive with that ankle injury and didn't make as many big plays. I think that was his next step. So I think he's going to be a stout rotational guy. I think he can be that in the NFL. Can he be more than that? I think it's important for him in these drills to show that. And you and I know he's a good athlete, but it didn't show on film because of that injury this year. So I think he's got a lot to gain, because right now he's kind of projected as a late day 3 pick. I think he'll get picked, but you'd like to go a little higher than that. And I agree with you. It's Tip Ryman, because the production receptions wise wasn't there, partly because he had to stay into block to help his tackles. But when he did get opportunities this year to catch the ball, I kept telling you in the press box, like, I'd like to see him get a little more targets. Like we talked about it throughout the year. I'd like to see him get a few more targets. But when he got the opportunities, he made the most of them, I thought, this year, unlike the year prior where he had some drops. He wasn't able to haul some in. I think he really improved. And just the word I'm getting from scouts is that he's going to test really well. So if he does that and he shows some, I don't think he's ever going to be like the strongest pass catcher, but if he can show he can be a solid check down guy, he's going to be a devastating blocker. It's 6'5", 270, looks like Ivan Drago. And you just know you're going to get the most out of Tip Ryman. There's some other players that have come through here that maybe didn't go get drafted or get to the NFL like we thought. Tip Ryman, you're going to get the most out of. He's married, veteran, mature, all those things. So I think an NFL team, especially, I think you talked to Dane Brugler about this with the Athletic. You got a piece coming out. Day 3 of the draft is pretty weak this year. So for guys like Julian Pearl and Tip Ryman, that could potentially really help them here.
It's funny you say that you're going to get the most out of him, and I'm not going to spoil the entire Dane Brugler story, which will be out Friday morning on Illini Inquirer. But he said, there's still, I'm paraphrasing, and the exact quote's going to be in the story. He said, there's still more there, and you can't say that for everybody in the draft. And he mentioned his story and his coming in as a walk-on and working his way into this and the locker room guy. I'm going to level with you. When Brett Bielema said, do you remember there was a postseason press conference? It's not like there's been many of them. Maybe the second one, I know, whatever. He said, scouts asked me about Tip Ryman. He said, I think Tip Ryman's a guy who's going to keep kind of building that buzz. And he was right. Like, I don't think he's going to move up past day 3. I don't think it's going to be early day 3, but he seems like he could maybe climb into that upper 6th, late 5th round. That might be a high ceiling, but I think I think those testing numbers are going to be pretty good. I'm really eager to see those.
And it's kind of a weak tight end class at the top. Now, I've heard there's a little bit of depth, and Tip is a part of that on day 3. But at worst, put that guy in special teams and let him be the 12 personnel blocker. Like, there's use for a guy like that in the NFL, even if it's on a practice squad or whatever it is. All right, number 2, does Johnny Newton still go in the first round? Some don't have him there anymore. Mel Kiper Jr., the godfather of mock drafts, does not have Johnny Newton in the first round. I believe Daniel Jeremiah does not have Johnny Newton in the first round. So what do you think, Joey?
I don't think the foot injury is that big of a deal. I think there's so much production there. And if you're a team that's...
For a second, sorry to interrupt.
No, go.
That guy played with a Jones fracture for the final half of the season.
And for people who don't know, that's like a pinky toe area injury, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Like, I've had, toe that really, really hurt, and he was still ridiculously good.
Had no idea. None of us had any, occasionally we'll see these guys, never saw them in a boot in any capacity or a meaningful limp, nothing. Like, that was impressive. So I don't think that's going to really be something that hurts him. I think, look, if a team is like set in stone on their measurables and they don't feel like they want to deviate from that, that's going to hurt him, because he's not going to, and I'm sure I'll see you scan your computer, probably pulling up his measurables now. But like, that's probably the biggest knock on him. And again, I talked to Dave Brugler. I'm not going to continue to spoil the story. It's going to be in there. But like, I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think he's going to be mocked in the first round, probably through April. But I think he's going to have that pro day. This is my read on it, Jeremy. I think it's going to be a guy that maybe is mocked pretty consistently in that early second, that 33 to 37 range. Then he's going to run. I think he's going to run at that pro day, and he's going to vault back into that first round. I think he's going to end up in the first round. It's a long way to say that, but might not be like mocked there until later after he gets in that pro day.
Yeah, height 6'1" and 5/8, weight 304, arms 32 and a third, hand 9.5 inches, wingspan almost 76 inches. Length is not his strength, but like Byron Murphy is his competition as a 3-tech. Byron Murphy has a little bit bigger of a wingspan, about 77 inches. His arms are the exact same. His hands are a little bit bigger, but he's 7 pounds less and an inch and a half shorter. So if those two are your 3 techniques, it's which flavor do you like, which player do you like a little bit more. But those guys are so desired. Those 3 techniques, those pass rushers like Johnny Newton and Byron Murphy, those are the guys that are going to go high. It's not a great defensive tackle draft. I think he's going to go pick 20 through 40. So whether that's first round or not, like here's the thing. He's a 4-3 defensive tackle, 3 technique. So I do think, I know he played a bunch of different positions at Illinois, but NFL teams, it's probably going to be a 4-3 team that takes him. So it'll be interesting to see who wants him. I know Cincinnati's kind of a name that gets linked to him. Houston's been mentioned, but I caught up with ESPN's Matt Miller last week, and he said, I still got a first round grade on him. So I think if he doesn't go first round, he's going very early in the second round. And I think a team would be very, very happy to get him. And he's still going to get a lot of money on his first deal. But that top 10 talk, that's not going to happen.
No, that's calm down. And here's the thing. I talked to Piper about this yesterday on the radio. There's a financial implication, right, to not being in the top 10. There certainly is. And you make a lot of money as a top 10 pick. But you also, I saw a mock that still had him in the first round to the Bengals. And then there was one to the Chiefs. Hey, that's a pretty good place to find yourself, right? If you're Johnny Newton, to be on one of those teams. So again, I think that pro day is going to be really big for him to show that he's healthy and that can match the production. And I think that's going to ultimately vault him back. Real quick, Keith Randolph, 5.16 in his first 40-yard dash run. Actually saw Johnny Newton was all crouched down over there on the sideline watching him. Johnny's not going through any workouts, obviously, as we've talked about with the foot. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to ultimately be a first-round draft pick. I just think it's going to be clear later in the process.
Seattle is the name.
A team talked about talking with them and the opportunity to pair back up with Devin Witherspoon, and certainly that would be intriguing for him and a good fit for him.
Another team that'd be interesting to me is Buffalo, because they had Ed Oliver's similar kind of player.
Just
That
asked
I
about
think,
them.
yeah, so I think that could be a team that's interesting. Lante's Arizona Cardinals at 27 could use somebody like that. Jacksonville, I see, has gotten a couple mocks. So, yeah, I think he's going to go to a good team. So I think that's a good thing for Johnny Newton here. All right, number 3. By the way, 5.16, pretty solid for Keith Randolph on a 40-yard dash. The 10-yard split's probably more important than anything for those
That
defensive.
was 1.97, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on him.
I don't think that's great, but he's a decent athlete. Like that's not a bad time. Number 3, which Illini currently on the team will be the best prospects for the 2025 NFL draft, Joey?
Johnny Newton was asked about this yesterday in the hodgepodge of questions. He mentioned Zy Chrysler and Pat Bryant. I think it's Seth Coleman. Dane Brugler talked a little bit to me about Seth Coleman and just kind of a guy, is he strong enough to set the edge, stop the run? I think there's the pass rush skill he has, the quickness he has, the length he has. That's all very evident. I think, and you and I have talked about this, so I'm really interested. I think our answer on Seth is going to be pretty similar. But I think he is number 1 for me. And then a guy, we haven't seen him play at Illinois yet, but I think J.C. Davis is going to be in that conversation as well.
Yeah, I think the guys with the highest floors for sure are Seth Coleman, and I would put Pat Bryant because I think he could be a number 1 Big Ten wideout. Speed wise, is he good enough to get like the second or third round? I don't know, but I think he's got the size, the athleticism, and the competitiveness, and as a blocker too, to be an NFL wide receiver potential day 3 pick. J.C. Davis is a guy that, whether it's tackle or guard, I think could be an NFL prospect. PFF had him like top 300 before he committed to Illinois in this draft class. But yeah, Seth Coleman, man, like if you get consistency and you have an 8 or 9 sack season, there's no reason. Like he's got all the tools. He's so long. He's got great burst. He can bend. He can hold up against the run, as you said. And I think he can drop back a little bit, but he's more of a true defensive end in my book. Another guy I would throw out there is Gabe Backus. I don't know if he's quite that level where he's an early entry as a true junior, but he's a very, very talented player that probably stays on the edge, given that they've added Dennis Briggs, Anthony Johnson, and Inechi Sudge, but he's still a guy with a really high ceiling that I'm sure NFL teams will be looking at in depth next year.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I know you and I have speculated, and we'll continue to wonder if he's going to move inside. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that he's dropped down a few pounds come spring ball. I think he's a guy who likes the opportunity to play on the edge. And he was productive as a freshman. I think he got too big. I'll be curious if he would agree with that as a sophomore.
Yeah.
But I think he's a guy who, he's had that production before. He's strong. He's big. If he can maybe lean out a little bit, if he's going to stay there could still be an opportunity to pair him with Seth Coleman, and those two could be pretty solid there. Really.
What do you make of Johnny saying Zylan Chrysler, as he said? The tools are there.
That's right. That's right. I need to see some more consistency before I would jump on board with saying that. And when I say that, that probably goes in line with keeping him a right guard.
Yes.
Right. Like if you're going to see that consistency, that's probably at right guard. But he's a big guy. For his size, he moves okay. And seeing him at tackle, I think really that's just kind of left a taste if you watch it. Like, I don't know. And because he played better at guard when he moved back to that right guard spot. I would like to see him stay there and see them figure out something different at right tackle this year. But he's strong, he's big, he's powerful. Like those are things that play. And another year, this would be a 3rd year as a starter in the Big Ten. I think you could see some improvement there if they keep him at right guard. And if he goes to right tackle, then I just I don't know. Like I don't know what that would look like. I'm not saying it wouldn't be good. I just don't know that I could say comfortably what I think it would look like.
I'm trying to think if there's like a Casey Washington in this group as like a sleeper.
Yeah. Or Tip Ryman as a sleeper.
Yeah. Should we throw Luke Altmaier in that mix?
I would throw Cole Ruskin in that mix.
That was one I was thinking of because he was an FCS All-American last year. Different kind of tight end than Tip Ryman, right? There's a pass catcher, kind of more that H guy than a Y guy. Xavier Scott, he's going to be a true junior here. I don't know if he's the caliber that he'd be an early entry, but he's a guy that I think eventually can get some NFL looks as kind of that slot, because they're looking for those slot corners, man.
Yeah, he again, like I struggle to think there's a 3-year guy on this team right now. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a smaller group. It's not going to be the 6. We'll see if it's even the 4 that it was last year. 4, it might be 4. Beal and those guys, they have enough plugs that maybe they can get. And there's some talent there with Seth Coleman as one. And I don't know. I just don't think it's. We could try to look deep into the list. I don't think we need to. I think the guys are who they are, and I don't think we're far off on the names we've mentioned.
Yeah, this would be more like a 2022 draft class where you had guys go day 3, right? You had 3 guys go day 3 that year.
Like Kendrick Green, Nate Hobbs.
Well, no, that'd be Vidarian Lowe,
Doug Kramer.
Yeah, that kind of group. Yeah, one more. Am I missing? But it'd be that kind of group rather than first round picks, second round picks, like
right. Yeah,
had the last couple of years. All right, Joey, number 4. Illini women's basketball, 13-13 overall. You do a great job covering them. 7-9 in the Big Ten. Why have they struggled to follow up last season?
I think the injuries, Micaiah Cook missing time early, didn't do them any favors, and it took her a while. Like, to be honest, it took her a while to really find that form. They haven't shot the ball. Like, I think we probably overestimated the shooting ability after what they did last year. Like, this is still, I still think there's good shooters.
Especially to start the season. Weren't they like 42% through the first like 12 games, and then Big Ten play kind of dropped off a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I think there's still good shooters on this team. I'm not saying this team's filled with bad shooters, but I think we probably have to look at last year as like whoa, they really, really shot it very well. The defense had been inconsistent for the better part of the year. That really tightened up after the Michigan game. Then they had to find their offense, right? So they never put it together at the right time. I think trying to figure out that I like that what they've unlocked with Hobby and Bostic as a pairing, but that took a while to get there. So the schedule's been harder too. We have to acknowledge that. And that's kind of the thing right now that's hurting Illinois is they need wins.
Yeah.
Like I think we can pretty much cool down on any NCAA tournament talk at this point, barring an insane run in Minneapolis at the Big Ten tournament and winning the next 2 games at Michigan State tonight and then Sunday against Nebraska. But yeah, it just seems like they haven't put the whole picture together this year. There have been flashes of good play, but it's just not very consistent.
Yeah, they had a much tougher non-conference schedule, so they don't have the 20 wins like they had last year. But it's those close losses. Like you and I were sitting at a restaurant, watching them lose by 1 point to Arkansas, watching our stat tracker. And that just felt like a crusher of a loss. Missouri lost by 3 at home. That felt like a crusher of a loss. And then you play Indiana well and you lose by 6 on the road. Then you come home and lose to Wisconsin.
It's the worst loss this season by a wide margin.
Just a terrible loss for them. And at Purdue, you force it into overtime and you're not able to pull it out. So, listen, it's weird to say, but I feel like if these 2 teams played each other, last year's team and this year's team's a better roster. This year's team, I think, can beat last year's team, but last year's team shot well and they got some big wins, including that one over Iowa that probably eventually just got them into the NCAA tournament on that one huge win for them. So I still feel like we've seen this team play like it's capable of, like we thought they would be. I didn't expect this to be a top 25 team this year, to be honest with you, but I thought they could be a tournament team. And they just didn't win enough of those close games or opportunities to do it. But I'm still very bullish on Shauna Green because of the talent she's brought in, the competitiveness. The fact that we're like disappointed in a 13-13, 7-9 Big Ten start, like that tells you she's changed expectations in 2 years.
Yeah, 100%. I think the arrow is still pointing up. All these guys, save for Jada Peebles, who's out with an injury, and Camille Hobby have the opportunity to return next season. Then you add in a Haven Smith and the Barry Wallace, a 5-star McDonald's All-American. Like, you like the path of where this is going, but some of those close losses they're gonna sting, and they're gonna haunt them a little bit this year because it just doesn't. WNIT still feels very much on the table. It'd be good to host some of those if they get that opportunity. I think they would certainly take the opportunity to play in that bracket. I don't think there should be any question about that.
You still got to finish 500 or better for that, though, right? Like, so they gotta win a couple games here.
Yeah, they do. So I understand, right, that people would be disappointed in this because we thought the expectations had been raised in year one, and they have, which is why there's disappointment. But I still think long term, this program, they've got players. Barry Wallace coming in. I think you and I both agree Gretchen Dolan's going to score a ton of points at Illinois.
Yeah.
She's going to score so many points. She looks really good, getting really valuable time, meaningful time as a freshman in place of Peebles.
And the fact
so
that
there's pieces there.
The fact that you get one more year of kind of your big four. Yeah, I would say with Micaiah Cook, you got to find her replacement at some point. Genesis Bryant, we know, can get really hot from three. Kendall Bostic has just been awesome. She's been awesome. You get her potentially for another year. And Dahlia McKenzie's really turned it on the last month. And I've just seen kind of I always compare to kind of the female Ravante Rice, just the way she plays. She's really, when she's tough and aggressive, this team can hit another gear. So the fact that you got those players coming back makes you feel better too.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, you guys, for us as reporters, still got to dot the I's, cross the T's to make sure that's still the plan. That was the plan. It sounded like last year and at Notre Dame. That was a year ago. So I haven't really got any sense otherwise. But it's just our job to double check and triple check those to make sure that's right.
All right, number 5, Joey. Illinois women's track won the Big Ten championship for the first time in a decade. It's just the second year under Petros Cipriano, the second year director of track for Illinois. Can we call Cipriano a home run hire already?
Well, it looks like it. It looks like it. That program, the men's track and field programs, they were treading water is probably a pretty generous way to put what that program was when he took over. That they were, yeah, they were in dire straits there. He comes in. I want to go through quickly how they won this because it's a little bit of money ball mixed with you still got some pretty good talent there. They win the high jump, so that's 10 points. I'm not going to go through the whole 9 yards, but they end up in the high jump getting 17 points from 3 competitors. Like that's a big deal. And you start. I'm saying this for a reason. Stay with me for a second. The 200-meter dash, you get 18. What math sucks. 23 points from the 200-meter dash through 3 competitors. Triple jump, you go get 10 points. Like when he got hired, he had talked about what he had done at Georgia was you load up on the field events, and he hired a staff really, really qualified in field events, and you just swim in those points. I mean, you win first place, you get 10, and you try to stack a second or third, however many points you can just add those all on there. And then, like, that's what propels you up those standings, even if you don't have an elite sprinter who can win the 100 and 200 or you don't have an elite distance runner. Yeah. It's a collection of all of these points. And guess what? Here's the thing. Like, when you hang a banner, right, no one says only won 2 running events. Like that's not brought up. It's, hey, you won the indoor national championship. Big Ten, right? Is that what it was?
Big Ten.
Yeah, you won the Big Ten indoor championship. Like that's real. It doesn't matter how it happened. And so like that's a sound approach to go in there and stack points in some of those field events that you believe you can develop. He's recruited very, very well. It looks like you look at some of these names, they were not around before him, and they've come in and they've scored a lot of points. There are some holdovers, right?
You notice a lot of foreign names, and he's from Estonia, I believe. He has so many connections in Europe that they've had so many of these overseas transfers come in and make immediate impact. So those connections are really paying off for him.
Yeah, they are. So we'll see. Obviously, still got to get into the outdoor season when that comes around. It feels like we're talking track. It feels like it's closer than what it is. Still some indoor stuff, but it's coming around here. The first year was a rebuilding, right? Seeing who you got, waiting for your guys to come in, your recruits to come in. I mean, now they're starting to stack some real talent there, and you're seeing that pay off. Just what a really, really, really remarkable and strong turnaround for this program.
Yeah, scored 104 points at the indoor championships. The women did 17 points ahead of Penn State's their first indoor championship since 2013, Joey. And here's what's amazing. They hadn't finished higher than 9th as a team in the 11 years since then. And then the men finished 7th place, their highest finish since 2015. Aiden Ouimet won the heptathlon. So the reason there's a home run higher is because we're talking about track on this. I don't know how many people are actually interested, but like when you have success, you deserve to be talked about. And the Moneyball approach, the overseas connection, certainly is building up some buzz for Illini track. So kudos to Josh Whitman for making a big hire, a guy who won big at Georgia, So, hey, we're talking about them. That's a huge kudos to them. Last one, Joey. NCAA is discussing an early signing period for football, for college football, potentially in late June. What are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of commitments by late June, right? And it probably would free up those coaches in that December fly around the country, see all your commits type of, hey, you're still good, right? We're still good. Everything's still golden here to sign in that December signing period. It makes sense. Like these processes happen a lot earlier. You look at guys like Brandon Hanson, Joey Oakley, Caden Fegan, Aiden Lawford. You go down the list of guys who were committed forever, right? It felt like they were, Carson Boyd, Griffin Rousseau are going to be guys in that conversation. So I do like it. It would make sense. It would free that schedule up a little bit down the line in the month of December, where it's portal season and bowl season for some of these teams. So I get that. Now, a devil's advocate on the other side of that, some of the your really good wins, like your better wins, I should say, your Malik Elsie's, your Colin Dixon's, you wouldn't have loved that very much. Now, a coaching change could have probably, obviously would have, in this case of Colin Dixon, but those hey, we're still going to keep pushing as long as you'll let us keep pushing. Like that gets a little harder if they've signed. And there's it's the same reason Brett Bielema wants to sign everyone in December and not wait till February. Like if you're on board, you're on board. And maybe some of those late flips fall apart there.
Here's my thing. We do this with basketball. So I don't understand why we wouldn't do it with football. Like basketball, you can sign in November, you can sign in April. So I'm all for this early. Most of these kids are committed after these official visits in June. If they want to sign, they can sign. You don't have to. Obviously, they're going to be pressured to by people, but you don't have to sign. I would just get rid of the December period and just go with June and February then. To be honest with you, I don't think you need to have another December period if you're going to do a June one, because, hey, those kids should probably be committed in early February anyway. So I would just go with that, because then you can just focus on the portal from November through December, and then you can focus on high school kids, after January. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I know some people are saying, well, what if the coach gets fired? We do that with basketball. They're out of their national letter of intent. It's that easy. So obviously any change comes with some downsides, upsides, but with where the calendar is right now, this is the time for high school football recruiting. High school football recruiting happens now in the summer. It used to happen in November and December. That is portal season. Portal takes precedence over all of that. So if you are a high school kid, I would want to lock up my spot in the summer and get that scholarship in writing, because we have seen some scholarships aren't there in December if you commit in June. I would want to lock up that spot in the summer. So in a way, I do think it can be good for a high school kid to make sure they have that spot, because by December, it might not be there if they can go get somebody who can help them right away, especially if a coach is under the gun here. So I think it makes sense. I'd take out the December period, just have a June and February period.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think we have to acknowledge the portal, the huge portal change, and how much that's changed has elevated or moved the high school recruiting period in the summer. But we saw this really starting to happen, Jeremy, when things opened back up after COVID and there were no official visits. It's that June month, that June of 2022. Is that right? I think that's right. 2021 class would have been a no visit class. And then June of 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, June of 2021, because that would be the Leary Whitenack class. It was a pandemic class, but they were able to take official visits by June. So that's
right. That's right. So June of 2021. Mm-hmm. But as soon as that reopened, June became the month.
Yeah.
And then the portal obviously has really solidified that a lot more. But the summer months are the heaviest recruiting months. We know really June. June is the heaviest recruiting month. So it would make sense if you're committed, you're locked in, you want to keep your spot. If you're a coach, you want to keep these guys from getting calls from everyone else. Yeah, it makes sense. Now, again, the flip side of that is if you miss on someone and they sign in June, you've got to wait that out. There's no hope you can flip them by December, but for every time that works for you, it probably saves you with another prospect that you really like at the risk of flipping. So it's a give and take there, but it would make sense. Something has got to change, because that November through January period is just I get it. They make a lot of money. Coaches make a lot of money. There's very few people who have sympathy for the hour requirements to be a college football coach because they're paid handsomely for that. But man, that November through just January stretch is a lot. It is just truly, frankly, a lot for coaches to have to wear. And if you can ease that up, and if you're a fan and you like to see your team go heavy in the portal, like this gives you more time to go all resources in on that in terms of manpower. So I get it.
And listen, I do think it can be a positive for kids, like I was talking about. Like I think if you can lock up that spot, and then I do think of a guy like AJ Dennis. I still think he would have been available because Michigan State fires their coach. He's freed of his NIL or NLI from the summer, and then he can go take official visits in November and December, and he can sign in February. So I still think it works out that just like basketball. So makes sense to me. All right, Joey, before I let you go, any final thoughts? Got any thoughts on anything going on?
Keith Randolph, second run, 5.20. So 5.16 is his best. We'll see. We'll see what that ends up playing for him. 40s aren't the end-all, be-all. It's just been fun to cover the combine, man, and work on a little bit of spring football thoughts. And basketball is very, very fun to cover right now. I understand. I took the night off last night. Thank you for that. I do understand some defensive concerns were solidified.
Boy, that offense, Joey.
It was really, yeah. I obviously I watched the game. I can't check out that far. The offense looked really, really good, but it's been nice to jump back into football mode a little bit here. Pro Day coming up at Illinois. We'll have good content from that. We'll keep content coming from Indianapolis. I'll go back over there Friday before Derek and I head up to Madison on Saturday. So it's kind of crossover season, man, for everything. It doesn't feel like you should be saying that in early March, but spring ball's around the corner. NCAA tournament around the corner. It's fun.
No days off. No days off. Where are we going for the NCAA tournament? What's your guess?
My guess or my preference? Because my guess is, I don't know. People make way more money than I do to figure that out. My preference.
They're going to send us to Spokane. I guarantee it.
All right. Well,
make it the most expensive as possible.
I had a wonderful time in Pittsburgh. I very much enjoyed that city. We collectively walked across that walking bridge.
Yeah, we got to put your
generously say every night.
Got to put your watch to the use.
Yeah, dude. If I just get to say anything here, I did set the fitness thing up, which is so embarrassing for somebody who just does not prioritize it at all. But the early,
you getting your 10,000 steps in?
No, God, no. No. I did have, I'm not going to go into that. I had to really move fast yesterday because in waiting for Keith Randolph, I risked going to get my laptop from the media workroom, which is quite a ways away. And my dog's like, I was burning. I was really walking. Everyone's kind of leisurely got their coffee and I'm long striding all the way through. But anyway, the early parts of these Apple Watches, it's like, hey, just stand up. And then you do it. They're like, yeah, look at you go. And then, like, we're in the car. It's like, you need to stand up. Like, nah, man, we had a pretty good thing going early. Like, let's just keep the expectations low there. But, yeah, we can test that out in Pittsburgh. I do hope it's Pittsburgh. I know that's not the most popular take among our beat who wants to go see different things. I don't know that Charlotte is really as – like, that might be a long shot. That might be a long shot just because there's a reason. Yeah, there was a reason that was explained to me. I can't remember, but it didn't sound like that was one. I don't care to go to Brooklyn. It's just a lot. It's a lot happening. We'd make the most of it, right? It'd be cool for Illinois to go play NCAA tournament there. I'm just
our bar tab would be a little bit more expensive there.
Yeah, yours would. I'm for Pittsburgh. I would take Indy. Like, that's a bad call because we all want to travel and go see stuff. I know Indy.
Omaha?
I've had a good time there. Would you take Omaha over Indy?
We could. No, I would go Indy. But I would go to Omaha just so we can go to Lincoln, go to Haymarket District, take an hour trip, take a day trip.
We need our one. We need someone to drive. He's worked the WCIA schedule out for that.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Let's do it.
I would take the Haymarket District, man. When is the net? Football doesn't play there.
Yeah, they play there this year.
They do.
Yeah, I already booked a hotel for the Haymarket District, man. I'm all set.
People don't even care at this point. This is a sneaky good football for like to go see cool stuff, do cool stuff. This is a sneaky good football schedule.
Oregon, Rutgers, we're probably not going to the city. Probably just a Jersey trip, but and then Oregon's gonna be fun. Penn State road trip.
Yeah, that Penn State is brutal because there's just no good way to get there.
No. No.
And by the time you go to Chicago and fly to Pittsburgh, you could be halfway there, and you may as well just
we'll probably
make
try
move.
that one.
I've done it before. My favorite story of being at Illini Inquirer when I drove out to the 9 overtime game, and he said, "While you're out there, do you want to see Donovan Leary play?"
And you wrote
it was. We just need to decide while you're out there, what does that mean? Like while you are within 3 hours out of your way to go to New Jersey. I did. It was cool driving over Philadelphia at night, but that was a long trip. Fun trip. I saw some Harris in Akron that trip. It'll be a fun season, man. Football season's got some good scheduling. Lincoln's top notch. Seriously, for anyone listening who hasn't quit on our ramblings, if you're gonna if there's an away game you're kind of trying to look for, I would recommend that. Cool stadium. That Haymarket district is really, really fun around there. Very walkable. Had a good time.
This year, I'm just thinking of the Big Ten teams: Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin would be some of my top ones to go see.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I
would agree. I like Minneapolis. We have a good time. I'm excited to get there. And I don't even know. 2 weeks. Is that what it is? Who could say?
Joey Wagner. Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate you, man.